Peter Burns, friend of the program, Peter Burns from SEC Network, he had Nick Saban on his SiriusXM radio show, and lost in all this talk about scheduling and NIL and tampering and all that stuff, Peter Burns put out this tweet earlier today. He said, "The most surprising thing I heard at spring meetings, Nick Saban told us on SiriusXM they tracked how many weeks of the year they work 7 days a week. The answer was 44 out of 52. God bless assistant coaches and coaching staffs." How surprised are you by this? 44 out of 52 weeks of the year. College football staffs working 7 days a week. At least they do at Alabama. And I'm telling you, that's pretty much the norm. I wasn't surprised at all by that. But then again, I'm around it a lot. Maybe some of you are surprised by that. I'll keep taking you back to a couple of years ago, because it was the best job that I have seen a major college football coach do of calling this out publicly. And that was when Kirby Smart won his first national title and Reese Davis had him on TV the next day. And you kind of get that podium. That's one of the benefits of being the head coach that wins a national title. You get that podium to talk about whatever you want to talk about on ESPN the next day. And he's still got confetti in his hair. And Kirby's took the time to say, yeah, our path right now is untenable. We're losing some really good men to the NFL. We're losing some guys to burnout. Matt Luke was an example that he was about to have to deal with on his own coaching staff. Matt Luke should, for all intents and purposes, have been in the prime of his career. Great offensive line coach. Found a wonderful situation there at Georgia, and he was going to be set up to succeed, and he was going to be supplied with the best athletes in the country as long as he wanted to stay there. And he retired. Said, I'm out of here. I got the buyout money from Ole Miss. I'm financially well enough. I'm just going to go spend time with my kids. So much so that people thought there was a scandal involved. People thought there must be something beneath the surface. It really wasn't that. I remember coming on the show because I called around that day to make sure. And I said, no, guys, I talked to people today. This is exactly as it appears. Matt Luke is burned out. He can't take that schedule anymore. And then, of course, we had some of the usual fools who came in and said, well, I'd work any amount of money. I'd work 25 hours a day if you pay me that kind of money. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Because you got a finite amount of energy no matter how much money they pay you. If someone pays you $5 or $5 billion, it doesn't make you capable of anything more than 100% of what you're capable of. So right now you pump guys pockets full of cash, and in exchange, what do you expect? You expect them to do 125% of what a human's capable of. Well, a lot of them are tired of it, and so they've left. You don't feel sorry for them, maybe. I kind of do, because you know what people could do a better job of, and maybe this is on us. I think people could do a better job when you profile college football coaches of showing just how little the money actually impacts their lives. Now, the wife, the kids, the cousins, they benefit greatly. Most of these head coaches are in such a bunker mentality, it doesn't even matter how much money they're making. Ditto for the assistants and beyond. It's just, they live a nomadic lifestyle. And they're working over 100 hours a week, most weeks, and they're doing it with such regularity that it doesn't even stand out. Like, no coach goes up to another coach and says, boy, I'm beat to death. Man, we had to work till 8:45 the other night. Because he knows the other dude's saying, y'all got off at 8:45? Man, you're lucky. We were in there till 10:10, 10:15. What time did I even leave the other night? I go to a bunch of these facilities, and you know what the most common thing I see is? An inflatable mattress on the floor, especially in some assistant coaches' rooms, recruiting coordinators and whatnot. Those dudes don't leave the office sometimes. So it is not a shock to me at all to listen to the hours Saban talks about them working and listen to how many weeks they go 7 days out of 7, 44 out of 52. They're working 7 days a week. That's not a surprise. What is the greater point to be taken away from this? The greater point to be taken away is something we talked about on the show for a long time, and that is the people who make the rules for college football never have to abide by them. They never have to work in accordance with them, I guess is the better way to put it. So you go the NIL route, you go the portal route, but then you kind of lag behind adjusting what's legal. How many staffers can you have in this department? How many people can you have on the field? How many people can you have doing this and that? Because you got very short-sighted people that are either signing off on things, or you got reactionary people saying, 14 people are mad on Twitter. We better legalize this today. All right, it's Friday, 4:45. Have a good weekend. And then people just have it dumped in their lap in these athletic departments. And they're like, what are we supposed to do with this? Hello, is anybody here? And you just look around and saloon door swinging, NCAA gone. And you're just supposed to deal with it. Well, there's only two things you can do. You can either quit or you can just work more hours. And the ones who hadn't quit work more hours. And I was talking to a coach last week, a head coach actually, last week, at great length about how much more desirable the NFL is right now than college football. Now, if you're new around here, you may think, oh, that's a no-brainer, Josh. Pro sports, that's always a level up from college sports. Actually, no, it's not. In football, it's not always that way in coaching. Certainly the pinnacle of the sport overall would be winning a Super Bowl championship. That's always agreed upon. But there are two very, very different work styles. Coaching in the pros versus coaching in college. There are things you don't have to do in the pros that you do in college and vice versa. And some guys, if they just had an apples to apples A-B choice to make, they'd rather coach in college. But it's not that way anymore. Guys aren't going to coach in the NFL because it's just a higher level of competition. They're going to coach in the NFL because it's easier. It's way easier. You actually get downtime. You actually get to go home before the sun sets most days. You don't have to recruit. And recruiting's already been tough enough, but what recruiting is now, including your own roster and the portal, not to mention high school kids, is totally unsustainable for a lot of people. Just as a model, it's unsustainable because here's what you know. You know you got folks like Nick Saban out there. You got folks like Kirby Smart out there. And whether they like it or not, they will grind their entire staffs to the bone in an effort to stay out ahead of everything. And they may not like the rules, but they're going to win based on what those rules say right now. And so if you're calling yourself competing against them, you don't have any other choice but to follow along. And I hear from a lot of folks that say, man, I wish we could just have a gentleman's agreement. Man, we're all going to go home at 6 o'clock today. That's not the way it works. It's not the way competition is ever going to work. So I know some of you were taken by surprise at that. I was surprised it was only 44 weeks. I was surprised at that. Now, we had a little joke going around the office earlier today because pretty notoriously, our staff works 7 days out of the week most of the year too, especially during the season, and we do not have an off season. So, I mean, Director Colin is doing something 7 days a week most weeks. Jesse, myself, we're doing something 7 days a week. However, I would be remiss if I didn't include that, yeah, we can go to the gym at noon if we want to. Yeah, I mean, we can just go take an hour and a half lunch if we want to, but I'm not so sure. Don't type that in the prompter, Jesse. Don't you do that. You take people's speaking privileges and appearance privileges away for one little 3-year period, and all of a sudden they want to talk in the teleprompter. Well, we don't use a prompter. We don't believe in the off season, and we don't believe in teleprompters on this show. Other than that, it's pretty much game on. So, yeah, they're working long hours at Alabama. They're working long hours in college football. And I'm not quite sure anyone's coming to the rescue anytime soon, nor can we. We don't have the power to, but at the very least, I'll continue to use our platform to call it out.